wanted to approach Anku today. I'm sorry, we have a train running a few miles from here, but it's loud. I wanted to approach Anku today. I'm using these new rods and energetically working them in. So I'm just as reliant on Mindspeak as I am confirmation at this point. What I wanted to talk to Anku about was the experience that I had this weekend past. We went to the Watchtower Forest again, to a different spot. On Arkansas Bigfoot, you'll find that video as the Watchtower Mystery Spot, as it got a variety of energies that exist there, from the people to elemental. And what I experienced that kind of, I guess, didn't surprise me, but made me ask questions, was at one point I saw low to the ground, maybe 18 inches, 2 feet up, an amber-colored, a reddish, amber-colored flash right in front of me. Half hour later, totally separate section, I found that I had a black, and it almost looks like a wisp. And we've caught those here, but it just looked like a wisp going across in front of me, maybe 20, 30 feet away. So it made me wonder about dimension. And it gave me the sense that there's a place at our 3D world where we see matter, we see what is physical in our space. And in asking Anku about it, I was curious if there was a layer, because I always thought they resided in something like 4D or 5D. But obviously they've been seen in the 3D. So my thought was, do you reside in that 4D? And he responds with mostly. But it gives me the visual that there is almost this fine layer between the 4D and the 3D. It almost feels, if I were to feel it, it would feel like mesh. And most often, especially if they have humans, so to speak, mankind that they're working with, they will kind of walk that line, that tightrope between the 3D and the 4D. And it's just very subtle. But I wondered if there are fissures, cracks, or places where that might not be as consistent energetically for them. If that's sometimes where things like these flashes might show up and be gone that quick. What do you think? He says yes, there are, he calls them seams. And what I see is almost like what I would equate to tectonic plates, where these dimensions don't exactly overlap to begin with, but at certain places they're a little wider from each other. Some they do overlap. And he's bringing up time slip, and that where they overlap is where people experience that sense of lost time, or that sense of kind of displacement. And it feels like that is just a point where in that overlap there's not as much of a definition for what we perceive as time, space, and the 3D world. And so it can create this time slip for anything dependent, not just people, but anything dependent on the 3D world. Any energy is susceptible to it, he says. So the physical visual of seeing these flashes, or what we perceive even as a full-bodied image there and gone, is very much dependent on these fissures. That the people, I get the sense that the people specifically know exactly where these energy points are. Most of the time, they would try to avoid it. Occasionally, especially the young, will kind of happenstance or excitedly run across one of these places. And when that happens, it's because they have just briefly hit that fissure where it's in the 3D world and come out of it just that quick. So they don't really have a physical mass, but it's like we're just beginning to get the physical, we're just beginning to get the visual, and then it's gone. Thank you, Anku. Anything else? Yes. The amount of time lapse would depend on the size of that fissure, or that seam, as he calls it, between that 3D 4D experience, or in where it overlaps. And it feels to me that what's coming to my mind is the Rip Van Winkle story, where how'd that go, Ken? He was gone, basically lost in time. And I get the sense that that story may have sourced from a very real time slip for somebody.
Fell asleep under the tree and lost several years, and
woke up old.
Of course, now in that story they aged him. He was extremely aged in that, but a lot of people that have experienced this, I would tend to think that it's almost like a stop in time as we know it.
That's what I was just getting the visual of, was like a stopwatch, where
it's put on pause.
So if someone were to reappear 10, 20, 30 years after they had disappeared,
they may
even look the same age. So, interesting information. Any questions for you about that? I think that broadly covers the layers of dimension and how time slips can happen, how, energetic visual can just be there and gone. And this isn't just about the people, this can also be about apparitions that you experience, say in a house or a building, even out in nature. They're there and gone, and that's where these layers meet. And there's just that little window of opportunity to see that energy with the physical eye in the physical world. Working on booking sessions, please let me know if I can assist. My email will be in the description box. Any questions pertaining to anything from the people to ascension to everyday matters, I'm happy to approach. It's been a good year. You guys have really been fantastic to work with. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you will like, share, and subscribe. If it can help anybody else, let them know. Thank you so much. And
I do have one more thing one more thing to add to this, for something to look forward to in the near future. We had talked about making a video concerning how haunted objects or cursed objects or locations are created, and this kind of falls in line with what you've just been talking about, but that requires a little more
in depth. It would make this a long video, but definitely we'll be researching and sharing that with you also. All of these things I feel are very explainable, at least to the quantum minded, to those that understand the plays of energy, that even remotely understand dimension. It's never meant to confuse. Certainly if you have questions, ask me in the comments below. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do a live session again. And other than that, thanks again. Great to have you here. Have a good one.